For guests and visitors, I did this last time. My name is Teresa Russell, president. Thank you, Teresa, for filling in for last week. No, my name is Steve Perley, club president. I'd like to welcome you all to the 29th meeting of the 48th year of the Dublin Rotary Club. Today's invocation and pledge of allegiance will be offered by Mr. Jerry Cass.
The one and only.
If you bow your heads, please, in the perfect manner. By whatever name we pray to a loving God. Awaken in us all the freshness of new life and give us wisdom to make differences of opinion or background occasions for learning. Tear down the walls that isolate us. Make strong the ties that bind us. And help us to walk together, always rejoicing in all new ways. Use this, our Rotary Club, to bring to our community and to our world all things that are beneficial to all concerned. To this prayer, we all say gratefully, Amen. Before I give you the pledge, before we recite the pledge, I just wanted you to know that this pledge was officially adopted by Congress in 1942. So you know what was going on in 1942. And then in 1954 is when they added under God. So with a little bit of dedication, folks, let's recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you, Jerry. Teresa, we have a number of guests. If you would mind introducing them. We have a visiting Rotarian on Zoom. Daniel Stevenson. From the Delaware Club, if I recall.
Do a hello. Welcome, everybody. 1, 2, 3. And who else is a visitor besides our speaker?
John Ruckian says Chrissy on her phone.
Oh, hi, John. Welcome.
He's hanging out, I guess.
Want to introduce your husband? My husband.
Yeah,
That's all I think.
perfect. All right, then we're gonna keep moving. We got Sergeant Mr. Alan Grossman. All fines for the tall man.
And again, I'll ask, could we just pay $3 a piece and forget this whole thing?
No.
No. All right, then. Who's got a birthday in March? Let me see your hands, all of them, everybody. Your hand is not up. Peggy is gonna carry the pot in honor of her birthday, in honor of cancer, and since your birthday is not in March, please throw $1 in. Just saying. And with that, who's got happy dollars? Steve.
I'm happy to be back from Disney. It was a great time. The kids loved it. There's great pictures. But a week is enough. I'm back. Happy to be back.
Lighter in your pockets, I'm sure.
Yes, about to float away.
Okay. Who else has happy dollars today? Okay. Happy dollars, I did, but we got one right here. Hold on, Charlie. Emily.
Monday, I closed on a condo, so I am a homeowner for the first time.
Yay. Charlie.
Only here on a line of credit. You'll bear with me, this will take less than 60 seconds. On November 30th, 2012, I went to James. And in 6 days, they said acute myeloid leukemia. And they added 50-50 chance of making 5 years. 10 years ago today, I was 15 days into a 58-day stay. And in 5 months, I'd spent more than 100 days at the James. I'm, cured is the wrong word, I'm leukemia free. And that was 10 years ago, so here's $10 for that box.
Yay.
Here's-
Charlie, we're glad you're still here.
Me too, thank you.
Who else? Don,
Here we go. Well, so I already gave one for the fact that we just had a wonderful vacation in Southeast United States, and that's because we're about to start another wonderful vacation where we just get to go west. And among many stops, we'll be stopping in Arizona to observe spring training for the first time. I have to try to work on my pitch a little bit, but
that sounds like more than observation.
yeah.
Or not?
Had a couple of happy dollars. During this weekend, we had a food drive in 2 locations in Dublin and 2 locations in Worthington. And it was a nice brisk morning, to say the least. But you know, the shoppers were extremely generous at all the locations, and we get a bumper job. So with all the volunteers, please stand up that who volunteered that day. And Emily came and, you know, she was on the phone, she was negotiating the deal with her condo though, but she helped out some.
Well, Darnell, thank you. I'm just gonna jump ahead for a second. If you're not standing, you can add another $1 there to the pot as it comes around. Stealing my thunder, Darnell.
That's count.
Pets? How many do you have?
Stop it.
Okay. I know. Yes, that counts. You were contributing to the club's well-being. Row? Yes, of course.
Okay, so I'm happy because next week I leave on vacation and I'm taking a group to Europe. And we're doing a tulip time cruise through the Netherlands and Belgium.
Wow, that sounds like fun. Well, tulips, if tulips have 2 lips, that should be $2. I mean, I'm just saying. Voila.
I'm going to Greece tomorrow for my vacation, 2 weeks. My family and grandchildren, so I hope that's what you enjoy.
That sounds great. Thank you. Oh, don't slip on the grease. Who else is happy?
What do you think, you're me?
No, I'm trying to be funnier than our speaker today. All right, then, we'll move on. Who, like me, forgot to put their pin on this morning? We have these little rotary pins. They're very cool. If you didn't wear it, please throw $1 in. As well, I don't really see anybody not wearing their name badge, but I know y'all have one, so you can throw $1 in for that too. Thank you, Mr. Katz. Who knows what day of the year today is?
15th of March.
Oh, no, it's the 74th day. So if you're under 74 years of age, please put $1 in the pot. And who knows what week this is? I'll help. It's week 11. So if you're over 11, please put $1 in the pot. All right, we covered the food drive already. If you have not yet donated to Kick Cancer, please put $1 in the pot. And remember when Peggy sends her football bucket around to add some money to that. And as well, we are doing a personal hygiene drive. I did see one person bring that in. There's a few more days of that, right, Teresa? So if you haven't taken the time to help on that cause, you can add $1. And with that, I will leave you alone with except for one thing. So I went to the liquor store. I'm afraid I'm not going to win the bourbon raffle. So I went to the liquor store to buy a bottle of bourbon. And the cashier, she actually asked me for my ID. When I pulled it out of my wallet, my Blockbuster card fell out and she said, forget it. Y'all have a good day.
If I could clap, I would. That's great. Okay. Some of the announcements kind of made their way into the sergeant, but if you have announcements, please make your way up here. Yes, we'll start with Bruce.
All right, it was already spilled, but please remember to bring in the feminine hygiene products all the way through the end of March. I will be collecting them at the back table each week. Thank you.
I forgot about my foundation announcement. So sorry. You'll be all happy to know that your foundation helped yet another family this past week. They were new to the area. They lost their credentials in their move and they were short what they needed for their rent. So we actually helped them make their rent so that they could stay in their apartment and start their new jobs when they got here. So that's the kind of great work that your foundation continues to do on a regular basis. And that said, your foundation could use a little help. If you feel like you have a little extra money that you'd like to make your tax deductible contribution to our foundation, the local foundation, we'd appreciate that. Keep in mind that you can take your money out of your IRA if you're old enough, tax-free to do that. If you have questions, see one of us that knows how to do that. We'd love to help you.
Everybody, as you know, have the bucket for kid cancer. We do this every week in the month of March. And since there's 5 weeks, I was saying that maybe I'll just end it next week. That'll be the 4 weeks of March. But Alan Grossman said, if there's 5 weeks, pass the bucket 5 weeks, you make more money for kid cancer. So I'm going to do that. Does anybody have any questions about kid cancer to this so far? Okay, I did have a call from the Lancaster Sherman Club, and one of the members wanted to know if any of the money goes to pediatric cancer. And my response was that is that if we can find a cure or medication or therapy for any kind of cancer, it's going to affect pediatric cancer as well as, you know, everybody. So that was my answer to that. If you ever have any questions, just email me or text me and I'll be glad to answer that. Today I've asked Adrienne, our member, Adrienne, to just give a couple minute talk about her experience with cancer. Adrienne?
Well, I had cancer, bone cancer in my right leg from age 3 to 5. And I remember my mom saying the cure was worse than the actual disease, actual cancer. And I understand now what she meant because I was actually terminal. I only had a 15 to 20% chance to live. And so what they did was they just pummeled my leg with radiation and chemo, you know, and I had it surgically removed. But as a result of that radiation, it caused the growth plate in my leg to not grow as fast as the other leg. So over the years, my cancer experience has been a lifelong experience. I've had many corrective surgeries from the radiation damage, but I had to have leg lengthenings on my bad leg because I kept growing and it didn't. And I kept growing, so they decided to cut 1.5 inches of bone out of my good leg. So that was when I was about 10, 12, and they cut the inch of bone out of my leg when I was in high school. I had a good run through college where I didn't have any surgeries. But despite all of that, I was able to run cross country track and was very competitive, ran marathons, actually beat my sister who was a runner for Marshall University. So I was very proud of that. But I don't know if any of you know, but I actually lost my right leg, which is the leg I had cancer about 10 years ago. And it was as a result of they were doing a corrective surgery on my knee from the radiation damage, and it got infected and I lost my leg from an infection. So in a roundabout way, it was as a result of the cancer, because I would have never had that surgery had I not had the radiation damage. So just saying that if you can be very generous to kit cancer, I would appreciate it. I know it goes to help a lot of people, and hopefully someone doesn't have to go through what I've gone through.
I'm back again. So you may remember a couple of weeks ago, we talked about on March 22nd in the evening from 6 to 8 p.m. A group of us are going to go over to work with the youth from the 4-H group, along with some Ohio State University students. and we're gonna talk about food insecurities and how that affects them and their lives in Franklin County. So please, if you can, we need at least 2 more volunteers. We have several have already signed up. If you are available, we would love to have you join us. Again, it's the 22nd of March. It's a Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. and it'll be down on the OSU campus. I'll send you some information once you've signed up. Thank you.
Fantastic. I noticed you guys may have seen today from the district is that a district conference is coming up, Friday, April 28th and April 29th. You should have an email. I went last year. It was pretty cool. I'd recommend it. I think it's over in Newark, but I'm not positive. Anybody know? Somewhere else?
It's here.
No, it's.
Better, it's at the Vets Memorial.
Oh, really? Even better. It was in Newark last year. So, yes, if you want to go to the conference, check your email. Now, the raffle, the bourbon raffle. Where are we at? What are we doing? We're 16 days away from the end. We've got $24,867 raised.
Passed them out at Pets, a lot of people bought.
Oh, yeah, nice, good job, good thinking. I believe the executive committee met last week and thought that if we could get up to $50,000, we might be able to probably do away with the sponsorship drawing this year. So that's kind of a call to arms or call to action.
Can you repeat that, because that's really important to hear.
If we can get up to $50,000 raised in the next 16 days, we will do away with the sponsorship drawing, at least for this year, hopefully forever. So there are flyers in the back. I've spoken ad nauseam about how to share it on Facebook, but if you need help, please reach out to me and I'll help you promote it. I am having a meeting at the end of this meeting today to talk about kind of the last 2-week final push, so if anybody's interested in helping, please stay afterwards. Cool.
Do
Any-
you think you could wrap that into the weather?
It's looking very thirsty out there today.
Hey, Steve,
Yes, John.
can you explain how the payout and the money raised works?
In so much that the winners will get checks for their prizes, and then they'll have the option of going to the vendor procurement program or keeping money.
And the total payout for the winners is?
The grand prize is $17,200. The second place prize, I believe, is $2,900. The third place,
There's something that's for.
something, yeah, the second place might be around 4, third place might be around 3, and there's a couple few $100 bottles in there. So it's big money. All right. I think that's all the announcements. I think we're ready for, oh, thank
I
you.
just did want to say that Calvin Gebhardt from the Dublin handed out the flyers at the Dublin last week.
Excellent, thank you.
How did it go with food drive? Handing them out.
Good.
Were people excited about it?
Yeah, Jim Farmer is our #1 sales guy in the club. Talked to everyone that entered the store and handed them a list of bourbon flyers. So
All right.
Just one
That's up to
point in the
Jim.
future, is that everybody who goes to the Bulls Market from 9 and 10:30 goes in and out, and they're only buying booze.
I like it.
So we don't have crowds.
So you go to see.
So does that mean I should take the $200 that I would have bought sponsorship drawing tickets with and buy bourbon chances instead?
Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Might.
It might. Who loves a good game? All right. Without further ado, I'd like to get our program going. Mark, would you introduce our speaker?
Well, you might be saying, who the heck is this guy? It's Mark Beaver. It's been a while. Good to be back. Good to see all of you. I don't think there's much of an intro that's necessary for the speaker today. You probably all know who he is and see him all the time. Couple of fun facts. I don't know what he's going to talk about, so I might be spoiling something, but Not only is he a world-renowned meteorologist, award-winning, he also is an avid runner, big-time runner, likes trail running as well. Also gardening, has a pretty robust garden in the backyard. He's a handyman, and more importantly, a family man too. So I know Buck because his wife and my wife grew up next door to each other, literally next door, so they were best friends from way back when. But yeah, I think that's really all you need from me. So Andrew Buck Michael.
Thanks, Mark. How are y'all doing today?
Good.
I did a career day yesterday. It was virtual. It was a favor for an old teacher of mine, old science teacher. He's like, hey, can you talk virtually to all these middle school and high school kids? So you guys are a little older than that group yesterday. But you guys vacation well from how it sounds. So yeah, so I was asked to just kind of talk about the career, what it is to get into broadcast and kind of my career. And just the overview, kind of how I put together the forecast, kind of the behind the scenes, what it's like in the studio. So first of all, we'll just kind of get into getting into the career itself, and then we'll kind of focus on the forecasting in just a little bit. The first thing, internships are huge, and we are seeing that now more than ever because with COVID, it cut off our interns, and now we have across our company, Sinclair Broadcasting, we have 29 meteorologist openings because when we needed the interns 2 or 3 years ago, we were like, sorry, we're not letting anybody outside the building come in. Now, all of a sudden, we're like, wait, we can't get anybody to do these jobs. And they ended up interning at other companies where they could get in, and they just went down other career paths. So I'm very active with Ohio State. That's where I went to school. So I go there and tell the kids now, like, it is the best time to get into broadcast meteorology because right now there's a big demand for it. Networking was always huge for me. I did a lot of job shadowing when I was a kid. My dad went to Purdue for agricultural meteorology. I grew up in Western Ohio. So I remember watching the storms roll in on our Western Ohio farm, and he tried to get me to say cumulonimbus, the storm clouds at 3 years old. So I remember when we first got dial-up internet and I found these weather forecast models, and I'll show you what they look like coming up. But I remember going home when we first got the computer and showed him, like, here, you can look at these, because this is what he looked at in college. He was there during the blizzard of '78. And it was like a kid on Christmas morning. He was like, oh my gosh, like I put him down a big rabbit hole and he still is climbing out of that. So the big thing is obviously you got to pay your dues, working in the smaller markets, working your way up. I was very, very, very lucky to stay in Ohio when I did mine. As he mentioned, my wife, we met at Ohio State. She went to school for meteorology as well. So I worked in Lima, Dayton, and then here in Columbus. I had another job offer that would have paid about twice as much right out of college, where I would train TV stations how to use weather graphics, but it was out of state, be a lot of traveling. She wasn't thrilled about it, and happy wife, happy life. And when I got into these different TV stations, I tried learning as much as I could, and it really helped moving forward. So to give you an idea, all of the TV markets are arranged by their size. So New York is the largest. They have about 7.5 million TV homes. And then it just goes down the line. So LA is number 2, Chicago's 3. And then to put in perspective, there's about 210 total across the country. Columbus is ranked 33 currently, although that will very likely go up over the coming years with all of the new businesses coming to town. So it's about 1/7 the size of homes compared to what New York City is. So my timeline, as I mentioned, I went to Lima. I worked there. I was the chief meteorologist. I was the only one, so I didn't have anybody else to report to. But I worked 5 days a week in the evenings. We didn't have a morning show. We didn't have a weekend show. And then when I was there, the sports guy came up to me. He's like, hey, can you shoot video? We need high school football highlights. We need you to shoot this. So he taught me how to shoot the video, edit the video. And when you are doing that on a Friday night, you are just going 100 miles an hour. Not really, but I mean, when you get back, you got to cut that video fast, get it on air. And I learned a lot doing that. So on the weekends, Fort Wayne wasn't too far away. It's about 1.5 hours away, and they would occasionally need someone to fill in. So I went over there, helped out when they had vacation time and whatnot. And my station in Lima was bought out by the station across the street. So I was let go because Lima, Ohio does not need 4 meteorologists. And so I was lucky enough at the same time, there was an opening in Dayton that they only needed a meteorologist, and then they found out that I could shoot video. So they're like, could you do this? And I said, sure. I mean, at that point, you say yes and learn as fast as you can, and that's what I did. So I was a photographer for news. So I would shoot the house fires, the car accidents, that kind of stuff, 3 days a week. And then eventually I started shooting my own stuff, and I was the reporter and the photographer at the same time, which is kind of the general trend, how the industry is going. You hire one person, why hire two? So I did that 3 days a week, and then eventually went to the morning show, and I was a meteorologist 5 days a week there. Columbus, same thing. You got to start out on the weekends typically, and then work your way into the weekday position when someone leaves. So I've been here in Columbus now for about 11 years, and I love the morning show. My schedule is 2 a.m. to 10 a.m., which is super early, but I get off work, and then I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. So especially with them growing up, I was a kid when I got off work, because I get to go to the zoo, I get to go to Costa, I get to do all these fun things with them. So morning show has been great for family life. My wife does real estate appraisal now, so she works from home. She keeps an eye on the kids till 10 a.m. till I would get home, and then the rest of the day I just gotta have fun. So I exported some of the clips from college and from the other jobs, because my hair changed a lot. In college, I'm wearing a t-shirt, necklace. That is not going to work to get an actual job experience. And then I have a clip from Lima. I decided, hey, my hair is too long, I need to cut it. A bit too far, cut it all off. And the big thing too is getting coaching. One of the first things that the Lima news director or the manager said was, you look young, we need you to look a little bit older. So I had more contacts, and they were like, wear the glasses, try to look a little bit older, so that way you don't look like a kid up there telling them what the weather's going to be. Wear the glasses, let my hair grow out a little bit. There are stuff I got up for that. Like you're taking the whole test. And then, as I mentioned, I worked in Fort Wayne. Again, just good experience. The news director there, he was a coach, because one of the big things he always said is, like, when you're just walking, if you're seeing the green screen, pretending this is the green screen behind you, don't just awkwardly stand there. So we got great coaching. He was like, all right, you need to tell. Working in the different markets, like working in Fort Wayne, coach is going to tell you something different. You learn a few. That was Fort Wayne, and works. Dayton after that, I wore my big thing was anytime it was below 50 degrees. I think, and then I guess it still is. I didn't even think about that. And then the news director, he stopped wearing the vest. He's like, that's too much fabric. So you get some coaches that are nice, you get some that aren't so much. And after that, I was able to transfer within the company and come up here to Columbus. And I've been here for a long time. One other thing I did is when I was there, I would do that one man. Down with my own gear. I stopped at the Bexley Starbucks there. Back to Dayton. Just kind of, and that was one of the nice things when I had that gear. Yeah, it's like, here's the snow here, here's how much we've got in this area. On all these streets. So just kind of good practice, just repetition. Ever since, one thing that's really advanced is the technology, what we show. And one thing that I've ran with in front of the greens. Yellow lines to show the ground. So this is what I did. I was doing this. I take. So. Something. Where to do that, so as soon as we got it, I was like, yeah, let's go for it, and that did. Any for that, so I won 3 different. A special that I helped out with. Radio, one I got on the bottom right, bottom left is for interactivity, so one thing I did. Kind of when I was doing. With after. Back and just basically. Story, what's the talker, if they have questions, can we answer it, and then for that augmented reality, I won a third Emmy. People think Emmys are great, and I've kind of given up on them because you pay them money and then you send in your video. For every video you send in, you have to send them more money. So they're making money off of the whole thing, and I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, I've donated enough to them. But it's kind of fun to know that you in your field have that reward for doing it, but at this point, I'd rather spend more time doing vacations like all of you guys. So my daily task when I get in, as I mentioned, from 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. A lot of people are kind of surprised that you get in so early, but you obviously, same thing with like Thanksgiving dinner. There's a lot of work that goes into it where you actually sit down and eat and enjoy it. So the first 30 to 45 minutes is the forecast. Basically, the best way I kind of analogize weather is if you imagine a swimming pool, and somebody jumps in it, there's waves kind of sloshing around. That's exactly what the atmosphere is like. It's water vapor, so it's a lot thinner, but it's just the sloshing and the moving of all of these weather systems and patterns across the entire world. So I spend the first 30 to 45 minutes to see what we've got coming up over the next few days and 7 days, and even sometimes a little bit longer than that, because everyone always asks, what's summer going to be like this year? What's winter going to be like? And then after that is graphics. So basically everything that you see behind me when I'm doing the weather, I have to build those and curate those. So I spend about 30 to 45 minutes doing that. And I still do a few of them during the middle of the newscast. And then just kind of look up little tidbit knowledge, because that's one thing, we're competing with everyone on their cell phone. Everybody's got apps now. They're like, looks like we're going to get 48 degrees for the high today. So I always try to find a little bit of extra tidbit of knowledge, something that you're not going to get from your app. For instance, like St. Patrick's Day coming up on Friday is actually the driest day of the entire year for us here in Columbus. All of our annual rainfall totals are for the days. That is the lowest we've ever had. We've never had more than 0.51 inches of rain on St. Patrick's Day, which is kind of ironic because we think March is a pretty wet month for us, but it's actually, we have the driest day the entire year on St. Patrick's Day. Then I just kind of look up information like that, other fun little tidbit knowledge. We have to update the website, text forecast, email all of our radio partners. So there's a lot of work that gets done before we even start the newscast. And then I go upstairs, talk to the producers, and their job is really critical because they do 2 really important things. They type up what all the anchors are going to read, car accidents, whatever going on around town. And then they also have, depending on the producer, they have 30 minutes or 60 minutes to fill, and they can't go too long. They can't go too short. They've got to land that plane right on that runway. So weather is kind of a fluctuating thing. If there's something big going on, they'll give me a little bit more time. I'll tell them, hey, we got snow coming in. A lot of people are going to be focused on this holiday or something like that. So I'll ask for a little bit more time instead of 45 seconds for the first weather and 2.5 minutes for the main weather. It'll give me 15 extra seconds or 30 seconds. And sometimes they'll just contact me in the middle of the newscast because I have an earpiece in the whole time. They're like, hey, our light report went a little bit short. Can you fill in an extra 30 seconds? So I'm like, sure, I'm back here just looking up all this stuff. Like, I'll put in this little fun tidbit of knowledge. So we're kind of the accordion. We like to fill just whatever they need to fill. And then after that, I put on makeup because we have a lot of lights in the studio. If you do not wear the makeup, it looks like you ran a marathon. It's really shiny. So throw on the minimal amount of makeup so I don't look like I just got done running. And then at 3:45, we start taping our first weather hits, which is for Good Morning America. Since we're on ABC and Fox, when we switch over, we are live on Fox at the same time when Ginger Z says, here's the weather where you live. So that is pre-recorded, but everything else that you basically see me doing is all live. So there's a 5-second delay just in case we have a comedian on that says something inappropriate. We can buzz that out. But they're, everything else is live for us. We'll record some stuff for our app or other national programs. If anybody's traveling, you ever turn on the CW as our station, you can be in South Carolina or where I've had people in Vegas or other places, St. Louis, coming, they've seen me doing the weather there because I record regional forecasts that air across the country every single morning too during that record window. Then WCOL, 92.3 WCOL and 610 WTN, I do the radio with them. I record a few things for them, some teasers and whatnot, but I'm also live with them as well throughout the morning. And then got a few minutes, just kind of gather everything together, and then 4:25 hits, and we are live all the way till 9:10 is my last hit normally in the morning. So it's, once that hits, it's about every 10 minutes that I'm doing something. Some things that just come with weather is that you don't typically know how long your day is going to last, especially on a severe weather day. There's been days where I work 18-hour stretches. I remember it was back in 2012, we had 2 rounds of severe storms, and Bill Kelly and I were on air for about 7 hours straight. Of course, we had reporters and anchors, but we were on live for extended severe weather coverage. There was an extensive amount of damage that day. So sometimes you don't know how long your day is going to go. Snowstorm, sometimes you're just on for a long time. I mean, everyone can look out their window, you see the snow, but they still send it out there and say, hey, this is what it looks like. And especially it's interesting here in central Ohio too, because we all know how much of a difference it is from like Bucyrus down to Waverly. Waverly might be rain and maybe even clear skies, but the other side of the viewing area, you could have anywhere from 6 to 8 inches of snow. And then I've also worked from prolonged shifts. I'm kind of in the middle, like right now with us trying to find another replacement for the morning show. I've been doing some 9-day stretches. I'm currently in a 11-day stretch with Friday. I have off in the middle of it, but it's just really long stretches where we're trying to find someone. So if I get sick, it really throws a wrench in things, because it's not like we have just a laundry list of people that can come in and fill it in. We only have a handful of people. So working long stretches is pretty common until we get back to full steam. Another thing that people think is, all right, you chase storms, is what you get to do, but if you're out chasing the storm, there's no one there in the studio to tell people, all right, when can you come out? So we're often not out chasing storms. Instead, we are in the studio. And another thing that people find surprising is the pay. A lot of people think you make a lot of money in TV. When I worked first in Lima, it was 19,000. Dayton was 29,000. Columbus was 39,000. And you're under contract. So every 2 to 3 years, you can renegotiate. I do the gardening segments for the station. So it's like when that comes up, you can tell them like, hey, I'm doing a little bit more for you guys, like let's renegotiate the contract. I've never had an agent, some people do, where the agent's the bad guy asking for more money when the contract's up. But that's kind of something that a lot of people find surprising. So here's a picture of the studio now. We got this new in 2018, I believe. The other set was really old. I think it was about, they typically last about 10 or 15 years, and they just want a fresh look. So this is the whole studio, kind of a panoramic shot. We have about 4 cameras there in the middle. That's the kind of the black things there in the middle. That's not lit up, but it's hard to see. But up at the top, there is just probably anywhere between 35, 40, maybe 50 lights hanging up there. So it's really bright in the studio to light everything up. And they're all unidirectional. They have little grids on them. So they have to light up one specific person. There's about 8 different lights on that person, like from behind them. So it doesn't look like they're blending in. This is the anchor desk. This is behind that wall. So it looks nice and pretty there, but you go behind that, and this is the weather center. So this is what it looks like behind there. There's a sheet covering it, so there's no dust getting onto the backside of the set, and then a cinder block wall behind us. So it looks, everyone's like, oh, you have a nice glamorous TV job. And it's like, this is what I see at 2 a.m. every single day. And that's Katie sitting there beside me, Katie McKee, she does the traffic. But we are back here together, and I see her more than I do my wife. Thankfully, we both get along. She says I'm almost exactly like her husband, so I guess that means that she can get along with me too. In front of that, we've got the big giant LED screens. There's a bunch of different TVs there, but the main thing we use is the green screen, because when you're standing in front of the green screen, there's a TV on both sides. There's one right here, there's another one right there, and then the camera that I'm facing also has a 2-way mirror with the TV reflecting off of it, so that way what you're seeing at home is exactly what I'm seeing. So that way, if I know I need to move something, to point to something, and typically when you put your hand this way, on the screen, it's going to go the opposite way. So if you're dyslexic, it actually helps a little bit. But it looks a lot better because you can see when I'm standing here, turning all the way around, looking behind me. It's never good when you have your backside facing the camera, but the green screen is what we use most of the time. Plus, if you're shooting video of another video monitor, it doesn't come out nearly as crisp, especially on all the HD TVs now. So that's kind of how I got into weather. As I mentioned, I went to Ohio State, atmospheric science there. But to do the forecast every single morning, there's a lot that goes into it. We have weather stations all across the country. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of them. And these take a good representation of what's going on in the atmosphere, but only for the first 30 or 40 feet of the atmosphere. There's a great blanket across the country. But as we were talking, that pool, there's a lot of atmosphere above us that goes above us. So they send up weather balloons from the National Weather Service twice a day, about 20 different locations. And this gets a good representation of what's going on above us, because just like if you're taking a road trip or vacationing, if you all of a sudden have someone faster in the driver's seat, you're going to get there a little bit faster. They're driving a little bit slower, it's going to take longer. So when we send up these weather balloons, it gives us a good idea of, all right, how fast is something moving? How fast is the atmosphere, the jet stream moving? Because that will ultimately determine, is it going to be raining for my tea time later, or is it going to be holding off until later into the day? So we put all this into our supercomputers. Several million equations later, we get maps. And this is what I stare at every single morning. This is kind of a moving version of that, but we have a handful of them. They all go out different integrals. So the shorter the time frame, we can look at a higher resolution. This one goes out about 16 days, and it gives you a good idea. 7 days out, once you get past 7 days out, things are going to change a lot. Just like you're taking a road trip a long way away, your estimated time of arrival is going to fluctuate based off of how much of your big gulp you were drinking and how many restroom stops. Same thing with what's going on in the atmosphere. If something's moving a little bit faster or slower, there's other things at play. You're going to get different arrival times, especially the farther out you go. It plots everything in a line graph too. So if I want to look at exactly what the temperature is showing, instead of looking at a map, I can go and look at the line graph to see, all right, what's the temperature predicting for that model? And I look at about 10 different forecast models every morning. I fill out this spreadsheet to get an idea of what was our previous forecast. So that way, if Martha McPeak in the evening is saying, hey, it's going to be 48 tomorrow, I don't come in and change it by 1 degree. We try to keep consistency between the weather team. And then I look at the average of all the models. Sometimes they had too many bourbons and you have to throw something out because you're like, all right, this one's going way too cold. And typically you'll see other different trends. And this is one benefit of having a human tailored forecast rather than your app, because your app is just a computer algorithm. You're just getting numbers basically. But when you have instances like a drought going on, the forecast models won't account for that. And it's not part of the equation. So when you're boiling a pot of water, if there's a little bit of water in there, it's going to heat up a lot faster, boil a lot faster. But when there's a lot more moisture and there's a lot of water in that pot, it's going to take longer to get up to the temperature. So when there's a drought, we typically go a lot warmer than what the forecast models will call for. But again, with apps and everything else, they don't account for that. And that's the one benefit of having the human tailor of the forecast. The other thing is the forecasts are going to change a lot. So this was just 2 weeks ago, and I went back and I figured this would be great to represent how much the forecast changes from day to day. And we always say that when there's snow coming, we're always like, stay tuned to the forecast. But you can see, so we'll say now is today, and it has pretty much nothing for us, maybe a couple of sprinkles. But you go back 24 hours, and I know it's kind of hard to see, but it had kind of a rain snow mix, fairly light. And then 2 days ago, 48 hours ago, it was one with over 6 inches of snow. So when you get these systems, and the big factor with this, all right, your focus is on, all right, there's snow, there's snow, there's snow. The reason why this changed, if you look up here, there's a high pressure. High pressure is basically like a big bumper. And when anything's trying to run into it, the high pressure, which is what we have today, high amount of pressure pushes down, clears out the clouds, and any systems that go into it weaken. So that high pressure, instead of being up here in Canada, slowly started nudging a little bit farther down. So when we were expecting this rain or snow to come in, it just kind of ate away at it. And it didn't quite come to fruition as much as what it showed 48 hours ago. One of the biggest challenges we have now is these Facebook pages where it's like Central Ohio weather page or weather source. they'll post, there's, let's say, 6 different forecast models. Almost all of them are showing 2 to 4 inches, 2 to 4 inches, 2 to 4 inches. One of them had too much verb and it's showing 6 to 10 inches. Which one do you think they're gonna share? That's 6 to 10, because they want the likes, the shares, and they want to then advertise with their page. So one of the biggest challenges is when that system comes through, and let's say you got that 2 to 4, people will reach out and be like, where's this 10 inches of snow? Because they're not gonna remember the 6 to 10, they're gonna remember the 10, and they're gonna ask, where's that at? We weren't calling for that, and they don't go to the Facebook page to ask them, so that's one kind of thing that's challenging now, is making sure that you're communicating. I don't know why now. Just making sure that you're communicating over and over and over of what to expect. So when I put together the forecast, battery out, I'm almost done, I'm loud. So I put together the forecast sheet every morning. It's kind of what I take into the radio booth. I fill this out every day. It's chicken scratch. Once I spend that time putting the forecast together, put it into the 7-day forecast, and it's a lot cleaner for on air. So that's kind of wrapping up everything I've got, but I have plenty of time for questions, I think. Be great.
To what extent do those in your profession study climate change?
It is becoming more, and it's being addressed more in the classes. At Ohio State, they have atmospheric sciences, and they actually have a climate program. Like, you graduate with climate sciences rather than just your 7 to 10 day forecast. So there are classes for it, and there's actually specific majors that focus specifically on that. And Ohio State is actually one of the leading climate research universities in the country. They Ellen Mosley Thompson, what they do is they will go out, and they've gone to glaciers, and they get ice cores all the way down, because they can take a look at the atmospheric samples of what it was hundreds of years ago. So, and they have a giant refrigerator freezer there on campus with backup redundancies, because if these ice cores melt, it's all gone. So they are studying it more and more. I didn't go the climate route. I know other people that have, though.
I spent some time in Oklahoma when it was considered, but is Tornado Alley actually shifting further east?
It has been. I don't know the exact reason why, but I mean, we're seeing, instead of it being, and it shifts throughout the year too. It'll start sometimes, it'll start farther south, and as the climate warms up and the cold air kind of retreats farther north, it'll go more towards Nebraska and even the Dakotas. But there has been a shift eastward, not quite into Ohio, but it has shifted a little bit more east. We're seeing a lot more severe weather in Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri. They're getting a lot more tornadoes now than what there were before. Another aspect with that, and some of the tornado counts, is that we have a lot more people across the country than what we did 50 years ago. And there's a lot more people that are reporting, hey, I've got damage back here. And there's a lot of storm chasers, where 50 years ago, it was a lot more sporadic. And if someone doesn't report that the tornado was there, especially farm fields, they don't go out and, I mean, if they can see it clear on the radar, there's definitely a tornado, but especially the smaller ones that don't have as much damage. So it has shifted a little bit east, yes.
On your commercial, I Trust Buck.
Yes.
Those are cowboys.
That is actually the father of the photographer, like someone with the promotions team. And then the lady, she's right down here, Sandy, she's at the Hills Market. Yeah, so we just asked the Hills Market, because we couldn't do, Kroger or Meijer's not gonna let you go shoot a commercial out in front there, so we had to find like a private grocer and use the Hills Market for that.
We have a question online.
Hey, Buck, I have a personal question. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, you said that early in your career, the station manager told you to put on glasses to look older. So when did the station manager tell you to take off your glasses?
I had problems with my contacts, and I just got LASIK. I do think one of the manager here in Columbus did tell me, she's like, why do you wear glasses when you do the weather, but when you're reporting the rest of the week, you're wearing contacts? So I think it was just, they finally were like, all right, you don't need to wear the glasses anymore.
So it had nothing to do with your age, huh?
Not that I know of, no. They didn't say that. They probably aren't allowed to say that.
It's in your contract.
Right.
But when do you sleep?
Yeah.
It's a great question. So I try to get to bed at 7. Daylight saving time is really tough. Because I'm always going to bed when the sun's up. I try to get to bed at 7, wake up at 1. So I try to get 6 hours of sleep. I really loved it when the 4-year-old was a 3 and 2-year-old and he napped every day, because that was nap time for me too, if it worked out. But try to get to bed about 7 every night.
Yeah, I know weathermen get frequently the bad rap for not predicting it accurately, and that's due to a lot to the multiple factors we have to deal with. In fact, weather was in some ways the creation of chaos theory in the number of because of the number of factors. Did you talk to the one that is a human being you're taking into effect the most to try to figure out what's the biggest driver?
The biggest driver for what? For prediction? I mean, every day, I mean, I'm gonna try to get that as accurate as I can. I mean, that is, if you lose that trust in the viewers, I mean, it's hard to get that back. So the big thing I think that is the hardest is that people aren't paying, like, not only just bad forecast from their weather app, is they're staring at their phone, scrolling through something, texting somebody back, and they're not hearing what the forecast is. They're maybe catching it out of the corner of their ear, or they're making dinner, getting ready to leave the house. So I think one thing that I've really tried to do over the past several years is just communicating it. And in a normal forecast, I'll repeat rain coming Thursday night and Friday for this week example. I'll repeat that at least 2, maybe 3 times in that 2-minute forecast. So that way it really drives it home. So that way they know, like, or finally sunk in, that's when I need to be prepared. The other thing is that the trickiest part is snowfall totals in the winter, because 1 inch of rain is equivalent to 10 inches of snow. So you have to be really fine tuned with exactly what the liquid equivalent would be, like this much, because that means either not shoveling at all, or you're shoveling a good deal of snow. So that's the tricky part. In the winter, that's when everyone comes out of the woodwork saying, you guys get this wrong all the time. It's like, they never watch when you're like almost hitting it right down the middle of the fairway, 300 yards the rest of the year. But it's those really tricky winter situations, because especially if you end up shifting over from snow to sleet, every hour you're getting sleet or other mixed precipitation in the winter, that's 1 less inch of snow. And it's, I wish we would either say all snow or all rain, but we get those systems in Ohio where it's that mixed bag, and man, that makes it so tricky. Hopefully that answers that.
Yeah, do you use any of the social media platforms for recording some of your forecasts? For instance, we use Twitter, because Twitter will actually give us live reports from around the state on what's happening in your area.
Yeah, I do. And with social media has changed a lot since I started. So what I do, I used to just post on Facebook, like a video forecast. The problem is that now with some of the algorithms, Twitter is my favorite. With the algorithms with Facebook, if I post a forecast on there today and I don't say, hey, this is Wednesday morning, they're going to see it 4 days later and they'll be like, well, you said it was going to be snowing today. It's sunny outside, but they're seeing it so much later. Is that they each have their own advantages. Social media, Facebook's more of like the communication back and forth. Twitter's more of I need the information now, and if I don't see it, and if I'm not finding it for a day later, it's already outdated. So Twitter's better for that.
Twitter seems to work better for us. We do a lot of snow removal.
Yeah.
For an actual up-to-date accounting what's going on, Twitter used to work pretty good for us.
One thing I use a lot more now is like the Instagram and the Facebook stories, because they're only on there for 24 hours. So I know nobody's going to see this 3 days later. It's going to be this right now, basically.
Yeah, Facebook, you get them 2-3 days later.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Facebook's horrible for actual giving the forecast.
Yeah.
Some people still rely on it for that. So I still have to kind of do it in a small capacity, but Twitter and anything that's more instantaneous, because forecasts change dramatically day to day.
What's the deal with, like, it's Doppler XL 2000 mega, Viper Live? Like, is this actually just marketing, or is
Just
it real
marketing.
stuff? Okay.
Marketing. Just marketing. I mean, it's the difference of just basically, I mean, they're all going to have maybe slight differences. RC Cola, Coke, Meyer Cola. I mean, it's all just slight different branding. It's all the same thing at the end of the day. And we're really lucky in Columbus specifically because the National Weather Service has all of their radars all across the country. And they are really expensive to maintain. A lot radar typically is between $1 to $2 million to buy. And then to maintain it on top of that is really expensive. But we're really lucky because we have the airport right out here and they have what's called a terminal Doppler radar. And that's basically positioned around major airports across the country. And it spins and gets an update 4 times as fast as the National Weather Service. And it is an extremely high resolution, especially winds. So we can pick up tornadoes or rotation with this radar out in Pataskala in really high definition, where the radar in Wilmington, sometimes because they shoot out at their lowest beam, 0.5 degrees, sometimes they'll overshoot the spinning underneath of it. And that's actually what happened with the tornado that was in Bexley. I think it was like 2017, 2018, but there's a tornado that hit Bexley and the radar that's out in Pataskala went offline for like 20 minutes. And it was just basically the cell phone went out, or the phone line went out to get the data. And during that 20-minute window or whatever, that's when the tornado dropped down and they couldn't pick it up on the radar in Wilmington.
I'm curious your remarks about EWR in terms of access, because Weather Channel has dropped it.
Weather Channel's dropped those radars?
Yes, sir, they have.
I mean, you can find Weather Underground still has the TDWR radars. There are a couple of other websites I know that have them out there. So there still is access. Weather Channel might have dropped some of them. I can't speak to their website or where they get them from. But I know that it is still, I mean, it's owned by the FAA, so it's public information. It's a public radar, but I don't know why the Weather Channel would have dropped that.
I think we've got time for one more. I didn't realize how late we were getting. Apologize, everybody.
Sorry. I can talk.
It's captivating. All right, then. Well, thank you very much.
Oh, wait, is there?
So the story about why we now know you as Buck.
Oh, that's my middle name.
Okay, it seems like it went public after a conversation with Josh Corby. Does that have anything to do with it?
No.
Okay.
I've always went by Buck. When I worked in Lima and Dayton, I was Andrew Buckmichael. When I came here to Columbus, the manager at the time said, "You're not an adult film star, so we're not using Buck." And then when they moved on to somewhere else, the manager that stepped up like, "Yeah, we're bringing Buck back." We're in Columbus, like the Buckeye City, like we're going to use Buck. So that's the story behind it. It was just kind of one person didn't like it. Again, different managers, someone likes something, someone doesn't like something. So.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
I lost my papers, but I think I lost them back. I think I can do this from here. It's only been what, like 98 meetings. Unfortunately, I double booked myself, so the Bourbon meeting I was gonna have directly after this one, I'm gonna reschedule probably Friday, so you're off the hook there. Now I think we're ready for our raffle for that.
We are. There's 24 in the weekly. Road, would you like to pull out Teresa's? I was gonna let Teresa, she really wanted to win that. Last score, 9073.
9073.
I said, take one step over here.
How much was that? 24?
24. 24 and 480 in the ace of spades. Mr. Beaver, you miss the time? That's what usually why you're here. Yeah. Yeah, the last score, 9121.
9121. Well, on up.
Good thing I hunted you down. He forgot to take his tickets from the paper. Yes, babe.
Can't say. Thanks for playing. All right, if you will join me in the recitation of the 4-way test. The things we think, say, and do. First, is the truth. Second,
is fair to all.
Third,
Will build goodwill
Better friendships,
and
will be beneficial.
beneficial to all concerned.
thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Make sure you keep your badge back to the box. We are adjourned.